Justice begins with kindness. Justice and kindness often get treated like they belong to different worlds. One wears a stern face and speaks in rules. The other shows warmth, offers a hand, maybe even lets things slide. But that's a narrow way to see them. From a mystical point of view, a philosophical perspective that recognizes the interconnectedness of all things, they're not opposites. They're just playing out on different timelines. Justice is kindness, thinking about what comes next. And kindness, when applied with a clear head, is justice making its first move. Compassion, in this context, isn't about being soft or endlessly accommodating. It's about choosing to help with intent. Not just for the sake of good manners, but to reduce harm where we can, to bring a little ease to the lives around us. Evolution favored traits like empathy and cooperation for a reason. They work. They help us survive. But they also allow us to get along, give us confidence, feel safe, and stay connected. Still, kindness has a breaking point. If it keeps being offered to someone who uses it as cover for more harm, it stops serving its purpose. It begins to protect the wrong thing. That's why the earlier it steps in, the better. Before kindness is stretched thin or taken advantage of, there's a window to act with clarity and calm. Goodwill isn't a last-ditch olive branch, it's often the first, best move. A Mystrik's natural default. It's what meets someone when they stumble, a chance to talk, to listen, to understand. A way to offer repair before things harden into rules or consequences. That kind of kindness isn't naive, it's preventative. It catches the problem early and leaves space for things to shift. It doesn't yell, it doesn't shame, but it still acts. And more often than not, it starts with diplomacy and knowledge sharing, with conversation that digs into the root of the harm and gives it room to be addressed, long before force or formal judgment ever need to enter the room. But when those early efforts fail, when dialogue, guidance, and appeals to reason have been extended, tested, and finally exploited, accountability steps in, not to replace kindness, but to defend it. It doesn't rush to judgment. It watches, weighs, waits. But when the line is crossed, it responds, not wildly, but proportionally. It starts by reproving with words. Should that prove ineffective, it castigates with sharp clarity. If that fails, it resists, formally setting boundaries and applying pressure. If needed, it escalates further, deterring with consequence, punishing with purpose. And when all else fails, or when the harm is too urgent to wait, it shifts into active opposition, protection, and restoration. It defends those who would otherwise be left exposed. An aspect of Mystrikism speaks of a concept we call principled disgust, a clear, emotionally motivated, rationally guided response to persistent harm or manipulation. It's a moral reaction to actions or situations that are demonstrably harmful or ethically indefensible, not unfettered outrage, not animal revenge. Just the steady recognition that something isn't right, and that letting it continue would be wrong in itself. But that recognition comes with rules. It demands restraint. Any response must fit the situation and be backed by facts, not hunches. This kind of opposition isn't meant to destroy. It's intended to draw a line that protects what matters. When all peaceful avenues have been genuinely pursued, or when immediate danger leaves no time for dialogue, then force may become the only logical means of restraint. In such cases, whether through personal self-defense or, at a collective level, protective war, the aim is not domination, but the prevention of further harm. The goal is to stop destructive actions and disable the capacity to continue them. This is not a celebration of violence, but a sober recognition that protecting freedom, well-being, and existential rights sometimes demands firm resistance. Even then, any use of force must be principled, commensurate, and guided by a commitment to reduce suffering wherever possible. Justice, when it's working properly, isn't a cold betrayal of kindness. It's how it survives when the stakes get higher. Offered thoughtfully, compassion is already doing the work that justice would otherwise be forced to do later. It isn't a way of avoiding accountability, but a way of giving it a chance to remain unnecessary. Justice is simply compassion extended through time, and decency is justice in its earliest, most generous form. One speaks softly, face to face. The other watches the horizon and builds fences when needed. A society that learns when to shift between the two is trying to grow up. Not perfect, not final, but trying.